Hello there! I thought I'd take the time to do a little reading recap for 2017 and tell you about some noteworthy books that I read this past year. But first, I want to give you just a little peek at some of the books that I got for Christmas. I received 3 of Nio Marsh's murder mysteries to add to my Roderick Allen collection. This one's Killer Dolphin, number 24 in the series. This one's False Scent, number 21 in the series, and this one is Night at the Vulcan, number 16 in the series. So I'm looking forward to spending some quality time with one of my favorite literary detectives in the next year. I got this book, The Trouble with Kings by Sherwood Smith. I read Smith's Crown Duel a few years ago, several years ago now actually, and I loved it and always meant to read something else by her. I picked this one for some reason that I can no longer remember because it was so long ago, but then it just sat on my wish list because either it was too hard to find, it might be out of print, or it has such a cheesy cover that nobody wanted to buy it for me. But anyway, I got it for Christmas this year, and I'm looking forward to reading it, cheesy cover aside. And lastly, here's a present that I was probably most hoping that I would find under the tree. This is I Will Find You, Solving Killer Cases from My Life Fighting Crime by Detective Lieutenant Joe Kenda. Joe Kenda is a retired homicide detective who had a very successful career with the Colorado Springs Police Department. He now has a show called Homicide Hunter on the Investigation Discovery Channel, which is basically a channel that's all true crime shows, and he hosts the show and he talks about various cases from his career alongside a dramatization. My mom and I have watched a lot of episodes of this show in the last year. We really enjoy it. We love him, and so I was really psyched when I heard that he had a book coming out this year, and I can't wait to read it. Now, as for the 2017 reading recap, I read 56 books this year. Yay! I never really set an official reading goal for myself. I just say I'd like it if I could get to 50 books, or it would be nice to read more books than I read last year, and this year I succeeded, so I'm happy about that. I didn't get to finish any series, but I did make progress. I read 3, or reread I should say, 3 of the Anne of Green Gables books. I read 1 Harry Potter book and 1 Flavia de Luce book, kind of going at a snail's pace through those series. But on the flip side, I did get to read 2 short story collections, Tomorrow's Children and Daphne du Maurier's The Birds and Other Stories, 1 play, Terence Rattigan's The Winslow Boy, which was very good. I've seen the 90s adaptation a lot, and it was interesting to see some of the similarities and differences. 9 works of nonfiction, which isn't as much as I intended, 3 graphic novels, and 5 World War II related stories. Some of my most enjoyable reads of the year are books that I've already reviewed, like Up the Down Staircase, 9 Coaches Waiting, Far from the Madding Crowd, Every Living Thing, My Lady Jane, and so on. But here are some highlights from the year that I never got around to reviewing or mentioning. The first one is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This was a reread for me. I read it the first time when I was in 8th grade. I read it for fun, not as an assignment. To say that I read Flowers for Algernon for fun doesn't sound quite right. I've always been fascinated by this story. I love the way it's written in that realistic journal entry style, and I'm also impressed with the way it delves into so many varied issues. Psychological, ethical, social issues. It's a thought-provoking read, but also a heartbreaking one, and after a certain point, it can be hard to keep going knowing how it's going to turn out. But I still loved it. I loved it even more so than I did the first time I read it. I understood it a lot more. It's a tragic work of speculative science fiction that has always stuck with me. The second book is A Man Called Ova by Fredrik Backman. This is one of those super popular books that I never really heard about until everyone else had already read it and moved on. I wasn't sure what to expect from it because sometimes books that people rave about don't appeal to me as much. But it turns out I really enjoyed it. It's a rare thing when a book can make me laugh out loud and cry, literal tears of sadness at the exact same time. This one was able to do that. I loved Ova, the grumpy 59-year-old set-in-his-ways Swedish man. Somehow my inner curmudgeon found it very easy to relate to him. I wasn't crazy about the ending. I thought the resolution in the last few chapters left something to be desired, but the journey up to that point, and the way the story unfolded slowly and unveiled the past and its connection to the present was excellent. Book number 3 is Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. I never would have thought that I could get so excited about the announcement for a Star Wars book. When I read and reviewed Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy last year, I think it was last year, Grand Admiral Thrawn was, without question, one of my favorite things about it. Thus, like so many others who read those books before me, I was thrilled to find out that after 20 plus years, Timothy Zahn was coming out with a new book centered around Thrawn that documents his rise through the Imperial ranks. Though I like Star Wars more now than I used to, which was not at all, I still don't call myself a Star Wars fan, so the fact that I liked this as much as I did is a testament to how good it was. It's not super Star Wars-y in a sense, and there's a certain universality to its subject matter which is appealing to me because I didn't have to be too fluent in Star Wars lore to follow along. I found Thrawn's ingenious tactical operations and the various political maneuvering very interesting, and I especially liked the more personal elements, the explorations of mentor and apprentice relationships and the unlikely friendships that can spring from them. At the end of the day, even though we know more about him, Thrawn is still an enigma, which is good, because I want him to stay mysterious. I want to know more about him, but I prefer that he still has that enigmatic, intriguing edge to him, and I hope Zahn will continue to do great things with this character in the next book. Yup, there's gonna be a sequel. The 4th book is Relic by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. It's about a catastrophe at the Museum of Natural History in New York, where some sort of beast is going around committing grisly murders and creating a PR nightmare for the museum as they're about to open a new exhibit. Relic was a lot of creepy fun in the spirit of Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park, which I loved by the way, in which scenes of intense fear and suspense and violent evisceration are punctuated by dry spells of scientific theorizing and people staring at old computers waiting for them to do stuff. It's not great literature, but it's stimulating and entertaining, and duller moments aside, I had a fun time reading it. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that I read the follow-up, Reliquary, which was not as good, but had some cool moments and reunited all the main characters from the first book, which was nice. And then I read the 3rd one, The Cabinet of Curiosities, which marked a series shift to a more in-depth focus on one singular character, FBI Agent Pendergast. If I keep reading this series, it will be because I want more Pendergast. From the second he stepped onto the scene in Relic, I was like, oh, hello, who are you? Actually, Agent Pendergast and Grand Admiral Thrawn have some things in common. They're both unconventional, eccentric, often misunderstood, often discriminated against because they're different. They're both unusual in their appearance. Pendergast is practically an albino and wears all black all the time, and Thrawn's a blue-skinned, red-eyed alien. They both have a refreshing appreciation for all kinds of knowledge and educate themselves thoroughly on every topic that crosses their paths, and they're both geniuses, but neither of them are arrogant or obnoxious about the fact that they are the smartest person in the room at any given time. And somehow, I find that attractive. But we're not going to delve into that. Now, if you're thinking, gee, Weaselberry, don't you ever read any light, fluffy books? Yes, I do. I reread Georgette Heye's Frederica earlier this year and loved it, and I found a young adult romance writer I like, Kasie West. I read 2 books by Kasie West this year, P.S. I Like You and On the Fence. On the Fence was good, but I enjoyed P.S. I Like You a lot more. It has super fun dialogue and a cute romance. Maybe it's a little heavy-handed on the woe is me, I'm so weird and awkward thing, considering that I found the protagonist to be only as weird and awkward as nearly everyone else who thinks that they are weird and awkward is. But I enjoyed it anyway, and I'm a sucker for that shop around the corner Corner / In the Good Old Summertime / You've Got Mail, My Secret Pen Pal is Actually Someone I Despise storyline. So I'm looking forward to reading more Kasie West books in the coming year. So that's my overview of things I read in 2017. It was a really good year and I enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing what 2018 has in store. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, or throw out some titles of books that you read and loved this year. Thanks for watching!